Warning: in the following reading context matter that some listeners might find disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
"Who's this?" Ronnie asked, pointing at the photo of Keith and Mick. There was a blonde-headed male behind them. He never saw the person before. "Brian," Keith replied. His eyes glared up from the box he was looking down through. He was one of two former guitarists that we had before you joined the band. The younger guitarist looked down at the photo again. "Whatever happened to him?" Mick walked into the room. "Kef and I kicked him out," Mick said. "His behavior was the reason why we kicked him out in the first place. Keith, Charlie, and I all knew when to drink and to do drugs. We never got to the point where we would start being rude in the studio, unlike he did. We couldn't stand his behavior." He directed his blue eyes towards Keith's direction, then back at Ronnie. "Keith and I were fed up, and we kicked him out. Then we got Mick Taylor. Then he quit our band. And here we are with you, Ronnie." The younger male nodded. "What's in the box, Kef?" The human riff looked up at him. "It doesn't really matter, Ron," Keith replied. His eyes told a different story. "No need to tell me," Ronnie blabbled, knowing that Keith probably didn't want to tell him what was in the box. "I wasn't going to anyway," the human riff replied, getting up from the floor. His eyes locked with Ronnie's. He walked by the younger guitarist. Ronnie glared at the box. What was in there that Keith didn't want him to see? "Wonder what's in the box," he asked himself. His eyes never left the box that his bandmate told him not to look into. Keith would know that I had opened it. He would bloody chew me out for looking in it. Ronnie walked forward towards the box that was sitting on the floor. He opened it, not caring what Keith would do, nor say about him opening it. Ronnie regretted what he just did. In the box was a bunch of photos. "Why wouldn't Keith want me to look at these?" He held up a picture. The photo was when the Rolling Stones first started out. In the photo was Bill, Charlie, Keith, Mick, and that Brian. "The first guitarist," Ronnie whispered. He couldn't take his eyes off of Brian in the photo, remembering Mick's words of how Brian drank and did drugs to the point he was being rude in the studio to them, which Mick and Keith both had enough of, and threw Brian out of the band. Then they had Mick Taylor come in, which he was another one who left the band. Then he himself, Ronald David Wood, joined. "Whatever happened to you?" the young guitarist asked. Knowing Brian couldn't answer him, he chuckled to himself. "Silly me. Why am I talking to a photo of someone who I barely even knew?" Before he even knew it, someone walked in. Ronnie jumped, hurrying to close the box. "There you are," Bill said. "Charlie was looking for you." The guitarist got up from the floor. "I thought you were Kef at first," Ronnie replied. Bill tilted his head to the right, confused. "Why is that?" "Maybe Bill will tell me." The young guitarist looked at Bill. "What happened to Brian?" Bill's eyes never left Ronnie's, taking in all that Ronnie said, looking for a response to the question. "He drowned," Bill blurted out. The young male looked at the bass player. "He drowned?" Bill nodded. "Yep," the bass player replied, "and he told Mick and Keith before he left he would get his revenge on the two of them." Ronnie covered his mouth with his hand. Couldn't believe the words that just came out of his band member's mouth. Before Ronnie or Bill could say another word, Keith walked in. "Hello, Keith," Bill greeted. Keith glared his eyes down at the box of photos. He looked over at the young guitarist. "Did you look in it?" Ronnie quickly shook his head no. He only knew he himself was lying right through his teeth. "Why would I?" Ronnie asked. "There's only pictures in there anyway," he realized he just told on himself. Keith's face grew red in anger. "You looked in the box?" Keith shouted. He grabbed Ronnie by the shirt, putting him up against the wall. "Kef!" Bill yelled.